Hello dear learners. First of all, I welcome you all to this video on life writing, which is the first video of the module which is the first video of the 7th module of the MOOC on creative writing. Learners, as we know, life writing is a form of creative expression that encompasses different autobiographical narratives including memoirs, diaries, autobiographies, letters, and personal essays. It serves as a crucial mode of self-exploration and representation, allowing individuals to document their experiences, thoughts, and emotions. In doing so, life writing bridges the personal and the public, transforming individual stories into shared human experiences. The interplay between memory, identity, and storytelling forms the very foundation of life writing, enabling the individuals to craft compelling narratives that resonate beyond their personal lives. Life writing has a long history, with roots in ancient traditions of autobiographical storytelling. For instance, from Saint Augustine's Confessions to Jean-Jacques Rousseau's Confessions, life writing has evolved significantly, reflecting changes in literary and cultural contexts. The modern era has further witnessed a proliferation of life writing in diverse forms, influenced by developments in psychology, feminism, post-colonialism, and digital media. The democratization of storytelling through blogging and social media has further expanded the scope of life writing, making it an accessible and widely practiced art form. Today, there are more and more courses where life writers can learn their trade. However, years ago, there was not a single life writing course at any English-speaking university. For instance, it was only during 1996 the biographer Jane Ridley offered an MA course in biography at the University of Buckingham in the UK. Similarly, the City University of New York had introduced a full-fledged life writing course for the first time in its history. In the US alone, there are many thousands of communities writing courses, hundreds of writing camps for the young people, and at last count nearly 6,000 universities and colleges offering creative writing courses as major in the US. People read life writing because at its core, nothing is more compelling than human lives. Literature in all its forms is an exploration of human experience. But life writing offers the unfiltered reality of it. As Thomas Carlyle once observed, even fictional narratives are, in essence, mimic biographies. Biography and autobiography capture life in its raw, unembellished form, drawing readers into the complexities of real people, real emotions, and real events. The fascination with memoirs and biographies stems from many sources: the confessions of public figures, the secrets withheld or revealed by politicians, athletes, writers, and those who have endured extraordinary circumstances. Readers turn to these narratives not just to understand one life, but to glimpse many, to see how others have lived, struggled, and triumphed, expanding their understanding beyond their own experiences. For some, biography unfolds like a detective story, a quest narrative driven by curiosity. For instance, who is the person? Will we ever truly understand him? What happens next? Other people are drawn to autobiography for its promise of authenticity, offering direct access to another's lived experiences and emotions. In an era of personal branding, social media, and digital confessionals, memoir and autobiography have gained even greater relevance, feeding the modern appetite for introspection, revelation, and intimacy. Dear learners, everyone has a story, and when told well, it captivates as much as great fiction, perhaps even more. In an age where literary fiction often wrestles with uncertainty and self-doubt, readers have increasingly turned to life writing for the simple yet profound pleasure of a well-told story. Yet, that memoirists and biographers enjoy the freedom to craft compelling narratives. They are bound by an implicit contract with the reader to tell the truth. Unlike fiction, where invention is expected, life writing demands integrity. The art, therefore, lies not in fabrication but in shaping real experience into narratives that resonates, illuminates, and endures. So, dear learners, the main objectives of this video are to discuss what is meant by the term life writing, to talk about how to write one's life creatively, to enlist the different important steps for life writing, to identify the different important forms of life writing, and to discuss some of the other important points regarding life writing. So let us first begin our discussion by referring to what we can call the situation and the story in writing. As you know, each work of literature presents both a situation and a story, forming the foundation of artistic and narrative expression. The situation provides the context, the external world, the events, the setting, while the story embodies the deeper emotional and intellectual experience that compels the writer, the insight, the wisdom, the transformation. In a book called An American Tragedy, written by Theodore Dreiser, the author constructs the situation in a rapidly industrializing America. Yet, the story unfolds in its relentless pathological hunger for status and belonging. In Edmund Goss's memoir, Father and Son, which was published in 1907, the situation is fundamentalist England during Darwin's time. But the story is about the inevitable rupture of intimacy required for self-actualization. In her poem, In the Waiting Room, poet Elizabeth Bishop captures a seemingly mundane situation. And the situation is a child in a dentist's office flipping through National Geographic during World War I, overhearing her aunt's muffled cries. But the story is a profound moment of existential isolation, the first recognition of separatedness, both personal and universal. The tradition of life writing follows the dual structure, engaging deeply with the personal truth and a search for meaning. Augustine's Confessions remains a defining model, not simply as an account of religious conversion, but as a testament to the evolution of self-awareness. The situation in this journey from indulgence to faith, yet the story is his movement from chaos to coherence, from an ideal existence to one of purpose. At its core, autobiography is an act of self-definition, but self-definition cannot emerge in isolation. The memoirist, like the poet and the novelist, must engage with the world, for engagement shapes experience, and experience in turn fosters wisdom. Ultimately, it is this movement toward understanding, toward a deeper truth, that gives a life narrative its significance. Yet, the art of life writing demands more than what we call storytelling. It requires authenticity. The memoirist, unlike the novelist, cannot fabricate an unreliable narrator. In fiction, deception and ambiguity are the literary devices. In non-fiction, however, the truth factor is paramount. The reader must believe that the narrator speaks truthfully, that their voice is guided by honesty and reflection. The central question in a memoir is not merely what happened, but how it shaped the writer's understanding of the world. In this way, life writing becomes both an art and an ethical act, one that seeks not just to recount, but to illuminate. But how do narrators make themselves trustworthy? A question that can perhaps be best answered by an example taken from one of the most read autobiographical essays, Shooting an Elephant, by none other than George Orwell. We'll just quickly look at some of the paragraphs from this essay. In Moulmein, in Lower Burma, I was hated by large number of people. The only time in my life that I have been important enough for this to happen to me. I was sub-divisional police officer of the town, and in an aimless, petty kind of way, anti-European feeling was very bitter. No one had the guts to raise a riot, but if a European woman went through the bazaars alone, somebody would probably spit Beetlejuice juice over her dress. As a police officer, I was an obvious target and was baited whenever it seemed safe to do so. When a nimble Burman tripped me up on the football field and the referee, another Burman, looked the other way, the crowd yelled with hideous laughter. This happened more than once. In the end, the sneering yellow faces of young men that met me everywhere, the insults hooted after me when I was at a safe distance, got badly on my nerves. The young Buddhist priests were the worst of all. There were several thousands of them in the town, and none of them seemed to have anything to do except stand on the street corners and jeer at the Europeans. All this was perplexing and upsetting. For the first time, I had already made up my mind that imperialism was an evil thing, and the sooner I chucked up my job and got out of it, the better. Theoretically and secretly, of course, I was all for the Burmese and all against their oppressors, the British. As for the job I was doing, I hated it more bitterly than I can perhaps make clear. In a job that you see the dirty work of empire at close quarters, the wretched prisoners huddling in the sticking cases of the lockups, the grey cowed faces for the long-term convicts, the scarred buttocks of the men who had been flogged with bamboos, all these oppressed me with an intolerable sense of guilt. But I could get nothing into perspective. I was young and ill-educated, and I had to think out my problems in the utter silence that is imposed on every Englishman in the East. I didn't even know that the British Empire is dying. Still less did I know that it is a great deal better than the young empires that are going to supplant it. All I knew was that I was stuck between my hatred of the empire I served and my rage against the evil-spirited little beasts who tried to make my job impossible. With one part of my mind, I thought of the British Raj as an unbreakable tyranny, as something clapped down in secula seculorum upon the will of prostrate peoples. With another part, I thought that the greatest joy in the world would be to drive a bay out into the Buddhist priest's guts. Feelings like these are normal byproducts of imperialism. Ask my Anglo-Indian official if you can catch him off duty. Learners, as we have just read out these paragraphs, let's see what the narrator is doing. Here, the narrator is both the voice and the story itself. A man shaped and disturbed by the brutal reality of his circumstances. His transformation into something ruthless is not merely claimed but made convincing through the writing itself. Paragraphs after paragraph, the prose unfolds through a careful balance of narration, commentary, and analysis. It's reinforcing a reflective consciousness that observes its own descent into fury with a restrained but unmistakable aversion. He registers his anger, but the writing remains measured. He condemns the British Empire, but his hatred does not spiral into unchecked rage. Throughout, he maintains a sense of history, irony, and disproportion. In essence, an ostensibly civilized man confesses to being undone by a situation so dehumanizing that it would strip anyone, including the reader, of their illusions of control. The narrator finally emerges as his defining persona, the reluctant truth teller, the one who implicates himself not out of choice but out of necessity. He exists to expose the dehumanizing machinery of the empire, not as an outsider analyzing from a safe distance, but as a participant whose mere presence, I am the man, I was there, becomes an indictment in itself. He is the voice through which Orwell renders the moral and psychological costs of colonialism. Yet, beneath the crafted persona laid a complex, flawed individual that Orwell was in life. The situation here that demanded his voice was the political climate of his time. And it was this voice alone that could articulate the truths he wished to expose. The man behind the words, fallible, insecure, and sometimes morally compromised, was not immune to the prejudices and failings of his era. Some people cast him as a sexist, a vehement anti-communist, or even possibly an informer. But the voice he constructed in his non-fictional work, which is Shooting an Elephant, the distilled essence of democratic decency, was not a falsehood, but a truth carefully shaped for literary and political purpose. In Orwell's work, experience, perspectives, and personality coalesce seamlessly into a presence so tangible that we feel we know the speaker. This is the mark of a masterful memoirist, the ability to create a narrator so authentic that their voice becomes indistinguishable from the truth. After we have discussed the situation and the story in life writing, let us quickly look at the different forms and genres of life writing. As you know, life writing manifests in multiple genres, it's offering distinct mode of expression. We can begin by referring to autobiography, which is a structured chronological account of one's life, often written with the intention of preserving personal history for posterity. We can cite important examples like Mahatma Gandhi's The Story of My Experiments with Truth, or Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom. The next important genre of life writing is memoir, which is a more focused and thematic approach to life writing, and it emphasizes particular aspects of a person's life, such as childhood, trauma, or professional experiences. Notable memoirs include Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, or Tara Westover's The Educated. Then we can refer to diaries and journals. Diaries and journals provide an intimate, real-time record of a writer's thoughts, emotions, and daily experiences. The diaries of Anne Frank and Virginia Woolf perhaps exemplify this genre best. Then we can refer to letters and epistolary narratives. Personal letters offer an exchange of ideas and reflection, both revealing deep personal insights. So, collections of letters such as those by John Keats, Rainer Maria Rilke, or Sylvia Plath showcase life writing as an evolving dialogue. Then, of course, we have to refer to personal essays, and personal essays usually blend personal reflections with broader themes, and provide a space for intellectual and emotional exploration. Writers like Charles Lamb, E.M. Forster, Mark Twain, James Baldwin, etc. have used this form very effectively to merge the personal with the political. In today's context, however, life writing is flourishing as never before. For the last 40 to 50 years or so, biography and autobiography dominated the literary landscape. But now, in the early 21st century, memoir is becoming perhaps the most exciting genre in the Western world. So, what are the different steps of writing your life? And dear learners, if you want to embark on life writing, these are perhaps the most important steps that you should always remember or keep in your mind while embarking on writing your life. So, life writing requires a balance between personal storytelling and critical reflection. Life writing is an expansive genre that includes autobiography, memoir, biography, diary, letters, and oral histories perhaps. The following are some of the steps for effectively writing your life story. First step is to identify your purpose and your audience. So the questions that you must remember are, why are you writing your life story? Is it to preserve personal history, explore identity, advocate for a cause, or reflect on experiences? Who are your audience? Who is your audience? Academic readers, general readers, or any specific communities of readers? Then the next step is to choose a proper narrative form. As we have already mentioned, there are different genres of biography or narrative forms of biography, which include autobiography, memoir, personal essay, diary, or journal. Next step is to develop a central theme. Rather than recounting everything, select a theme that connects experiences. For instance, resilience, then migration, disability, spirituality, and so on. For instance, if we are writing about education, we can perhaps highlight the moments that shaped your learning journey. Next step is to use a proper narrative structure. So the narrative structure can be chronological, which starts with the birth of the person to the present, then thematic, which can be organized around key themes rather than based on time, which can be fragmented or vignettes, which means short interconnected stories can be presented. Then it can also be reflexive. That means it can juxtapose the past and the present reflections. The next step is to be authentic and reflective. Instead of just listing the events, you can provide reflections on how those experiences shaped you and your life. You can also show your growth and the problems that you faced. The other step is to engage the reader. Use sensory details and emotions to make the experience look vivid. You can also show rather than tell. Describe, for instance, you can describe a childhood memory rather than stating that I was a curious child. The next step is to address the ethical concerns. Consider how you portray others. Ensure consent and respect the privacy of others. If writing about trauma or sensitive issues, you should be very much mindful of ethical storytelling. The other step is to blend personal with the contextual. You can situate your story within historical, social, or cultural contexts. For example, if you're writing about identity, discuss how larger societal narratives influenced your own journey. Maybe the last step is to revise and edit. Read aloud your written work for clarity and flow. Then send for feedback from peers and memoirs. And then after that, you can publish your work. Okay, so after we have learned about the different steps of life writing, there are some other important points regarding life writing. So we'll just look at them one by one. First is memory and subjectivity in life writing. One of the central aspects of life writing is the role of memory in shaping the narratives. Memory is inherently selective, subjective, and often reconstructive rather than purely factual. Life writing does not merely serve as a factual account of events, rather an interpretative process through which individuals can make sense of their past. The fluidity of memory allows the writers to revisit and reinterpret their experiences, making life writing a dynamic and evolving process. Moreover, subjectivity in life writing raises questions about truth and authenticity. While autobiographical narratives often claim to depict real-life events, the writer's perspectives, biases, and emotions inevitably influence his or her storytelling. This interplay between fact and fiction blurs the boundaries of life writing, allowing for creative experiments while retaining a connection to lived experiences of the person. The second point is to consider life writing as a therapy or catharsis. Life writing often functions as a therapeutic tool, enabling the writers to process trauma, grief, and personal struggles. Writing about one's life can be a means of self-healing, providing clarity, acceptance, and emotional release. Psychologists have recognized the therapeutic benefits of expressive writing, highlighting its potential to reduce stress, improve mental health, and foster resilience. For individuals who have experienced trauma in their lives, such as survivors of abuse, conflict, or illness, life writing offers a space to reclaim agency and construct a narrative of survival and transformation. The third point is cultural and political dimensions of life writing. Beyond personal expressions, life writing serves as a powerful medium for cultural and political engagement. Autobiographies and memoirs often challenge dominant narratives, offering alternative perspectives on history, identity, and marginalization. Writers from oppressed or underrepresented communities use life writing to voice their experiences and struggles, advocating for social change. Post-colonial writers, for example, have employed life writing to critique colonial histories and reclaim indigenous identities. Malala Yousafzai's book called I Am Malala documents her activism for girls' education in Pakistan, while narratives by Dalit writers in India have exposed caste-based discrimination and resistance. Similarly, feminist life writing has been instrumental in challenging patriarchal norms and asserting female subjectivity. Writers such as Simone de Beauvoir, Audre Lorde, and Arundhati Roy, among many others, have used autobiographical forms to explore gender, sexuality, and power dynamics. The fourth point is the ethical and aesthetic challenges of life writing. Life writing raises ethical dilemmas concerning privacy, representation, and consent. When writing about real people, authors must navigate the potential consequences of exposing personal relationships and sensitive information. The ethical responsibility of the writer extends to issues of truthfulness, fairness, and respect for the privacy of others. Some autobiographers use pseudonyms or fictionalized elements to mitigate these concerns while maintaining the integrity of their narrative. Aesthetically, life writing demands a balance between authenticity and literary craft. Writers must shape their narratives with engaging storytelling techniques, including vivid descriptions, character development, and emotional resonance. The interplay between fact and literary artistry defines the creative possibilities for life writing, making it both a documentary and an imaginative endeavor. The next important point is digital and multimodal life writing. In the digital age of the 21st century, life writing has expanded beyond the traditional formats. Social media platforms, blogs, and vlogs provide new avenues for self-representation, allowing individuals to share their experiences in real time. Digital storytelling incorporates multimedia elements such as photographs, videos, and interactive content, transforming life writing into a more immersive and participatory practice. Online life writing also raises questions about authorship, authenticity, and digital performance. The curated nature of social media narratives often blurs the line between reality and self-presentation, shaping how individuals construct their identities in the digital realm. So, as we wind up this video, dear learners, in this module we have tried to understand some of the following important questions. Is life writing an art or craft, history or literature, objective or subjective? can it ever be true, adequate to a lived life, even possible at all? Should life writers tell a story, or should they just tell the facts? How much interpretation is allowed? How much speculation, how much fictionalizations are permitted? What are the ethical and legal problems of writing about real people, even sometimes members of one's own family? What are the problems of memory, of evidence, of myth making? And what is the role of the life writer as a whole? As we have understood, life writing is a creative expression, and it is deeply personal yet universally resonant and yet an universally resonant art form. It allows individuals to document their journeys, make sense of their identities, and engage with broader social, cultural, and political realities. The interplay between memory, subjectivity, and storytelling makes life writing a dynamic and evolving literary practice. As the genre continues to adapt to technological advancements in the modern society and the shifting cultural landscapes, its significance as a tool for self-exploration, resistance, and artistic innovation remains profound. So we come to the end of this video. In the next videos, we shall be discussing some of the very important components of life writing, such as memoir, diary, and so on. Thank you so much, and see you once again.